Hello, and welcome to The Budget Mouse, a podcast that will help you plan an incredible Walt Disney World vacation, even if you're on a shoestring budget. I'm Leah Althizer, and I've been helping people save money at Disney World for the past 10 years through my websites, podcast, and courses. I'm so glad you're here, and let's dive in. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to episode 102. I got a great question from a reader in my inbox this week, and I wanted to walk through my answer to the question about two-person strategy for making reservations at Disney World. And this is something I've addressed in trip reports, but I've never explicitly gone through the process, so I'm going to in this episode. So I'm going to first just read the question from Patricia. It says, a question about planning strategy. To improve the chance of snagging a popular dining reservation 60 days out, is it a good strategy to have two people, my husband and I, split up the task? For example, I could focus on booking certain priority reservations while he simultaneously books the other ones on our list. If so, can we both be logged into my Disney account on different devices, or should he create his own account? Similar question for using the MDE, it's My Disney Experience app, to pre-book Lightning Lane reservations. Is it a good idea for him to make the reservations for Hollywood Studios the day I do for Magic Kingdom? And she went on to ask about making additional Lightning Lane reservations in the park. Should we both log into my account on our individual phones? Should we each have our own account? So I'm going to break this down. This is a lot to address, and I'm going to start with first, my answer is yes. It's always a good idea to tag team making reservations at Disney World. It's a lot of work, and splitting it up between two people not only lessens the load on the one person, but it also increases your odds of getting the reservations that you want. Okay, that my answer to the second question, should you each have your own My Disney Experience account? Yes. You're asking for trouble when more than one person is logging into the same account on different devices. In theory, it should work just fine, but why? Why not just have each adult that is going to make reservations have their own login? Now, adults can set up accounts for other adults that they then manage, and oftentimes that makes sense. But if you want to tag team making reservations, I think you should both have your own account with your own login that you manage. So before this whole process starts, at 60 plus days in advance, I'm going to address the booking windows here in a second, make sure that everyone in your party has a profile in My Disney Experience. So adults create them for kids and other adults who aren't going to be logging in and managing stuff, and that everyone in your travel party is showing up in all of the adults who are making reservations, family, and friends list. So just basically make sure everyone is linked properly. Make sure your tickets are in there, and that will be more important when it's 7 days in advance, but 60 days in advance, make sure your Disney Resort reservation is linked there if you're staying at a Disney resort. That's important for making dining reservations, which I'm going to talk about first. So I think I got that all out of the way. Let's talk about ADRs. That's advanced dining reservations. Now I need to give a caveat first. I now, at this point, make very few ADRs in advance. The reason for that is that booking same day ADRs or scoring walk-up availability has become easier. And I just like the flexibility of deciding the day of where I want to eat, depending on my energy level, what I end up doing. But there are some that I still do make 60 days in advance, and I'm going to walk you through the process of doing that. But I would say this has become less and less important as it's become easier to get more last minute stuff. 60 days before you check in for your Disney Resort reservation, or 60 days in advance of the dining reservation you want to make. If you don't have a Disney Resort reservation, that's when you can start making dining reservations. Now, there's this 60 plus 10 concept here, is that if you have a Disney Resort reservation, you can make dining reservations 60 days in advance plus up to 10 days into your trip, but that's only for as many days as you have a resort reservation. So if you're staying 5 nights, that would be 6 days, you can make it for 60 plus 6 days into your trip. Now, if you are doing a split stay, you're staying at 2 different Disney World resorts, The Disney dining reservation system doesn't understand that, and you're going to have to make your reservations twice. So 60 days in advance of your first check-in, you can make it through the end of that first reservation, and then 60 days of out from your second check-in, you can make it for the second part of your trip. I hope at some point they get that resolved and you could do it all at once, but for right now, you can't. So you should, if there's ones that you really want, you should make them 60 plus however many days into your trip in advance. I want to say what the most difficult reservations are to make, because this has changed. In the past, there were certain reservations that were really hard to get, and now they're not as hard. And so the ones right now in 2024, September, that are the hardest to get are most character breakfasts. They are very popular because they represent great value. They're the cheapest character meals, and they're very popular. So particularly breakfast at Cinderella's Royal Table, Ohana, Crystal Palace at Magic Kingdom, and Topolino's Terrace. Oh, and one more, 1900 Park Fair, because it has reopened, are the most difficult reservations to get. So if breakfast at any of those are on your list, those are top priority. Next, the next most popular, Space 220 in Epcot, Sci-Fi Dine-In in Hollywood Studios, Tep and Edo in Epcot, Dinner at 1900 Park Fair, and California Grill are the next most popular. So split these up between the two of you. Each logged into your own account on different devices would be the best way to go about that. I don't know how I left out this very important detail, is what time to make these reservations 60 days in advance. And really the dining reservations start opening up around 6 a.m. and it's kind of a rolling time, like they become more available as it gets closer to 7. But if I was doing it and I really wanted a dining reservation, I'd be on at 6 a.m. I know that's rough. So moving on, let's talk about making Lightning Lane reservations. So this is the new system that replaced Genie Plus. You may have to go back and listen to my first podcast episode about Lightning Lanes if it's totally new. But a quick summary is at 7 a.m., 7 days before you check in for a Disney Resort reservation, or if you're not staying at a Disney resort, at 7 a.m., 3 days before the first day on your park ticket, you can start making advanced Lightning Lane selections. Now, the 7 days in advance, like similar to dining reservations, if you are staying at a Disney resort, 7 days before you check in for your reservation, plus as many days as you are staying at a Disney resort, you can make Lightning Lane advanced selections. And you can make them all on that same day, just like with dining reservations, you can make reservations for your whole stay. But this one's a little different in that if you have a split stay, this system seems to understand that and that you can make it for the whole time you're staying at a Disney resort. And to me, this is the most stressful time because a lot happens in a short amount of time. And having a plan and splitting it up between two people is going to make it go so much smoother. More so than the dining reservations, more so than the day of stuff. This one is the one that I think you should split up between two people because it's just a lot to do in one sitting. Because you can make the Lightning Lane reservations for the whole trip, and this is 3 per day. So you're looking at making a lot of reservations. It is great to have a plan going into this. You don't want to be winging it. So I have a cheat sheet that is free if you subscribe to my email newsletter that will help you plan out which ones you're making at which park. And there are tiers to the attractions now. So you can only make one selection from tier 1 at each park. So you really have to have it all planned out going in. And I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to where you can get the free Lightning Lane cheat sheet. Hey, it's Leah, and I'm interrupting this episode for a minute to tell you about the Budget Mouse Academy, my signature course that will teach you how to save thousands at Disney World. I created it because I hate that most people are majorly overpaying for their Disney vacation, and I'm on a mission to help them save their hard-earned money. I've distilled my best tips from almost 15 years of doing Disney on a shoestring budget into this course, and now you can get it for only $37 if you head to thebudgetmouse.com/course. That's thebudgetmouse.com/course. Now back to the show. All right, so the plan should be this. The most difficult Lightning Lane multi-pass to book is Tiana's Bayou Adventure by a lot. So that should be the number one priority. The second most difficult one to get is Slinky Dog Dash at Hollywood Studios. The later in your trip that you're visiting Magic Kingdom, the easier it will be to get that reservation at Tiana's Bayou Adventure. if you're staying at a Disney resort. Well, even if you're not, because you just have that much more advanced booking window. So if I was planning a trip, I would try to go to Magic Kingdom once at the end of my trip to make this easier on myself. But the good news is that everything else is fairly easy after those 2 attractions. So I would split up Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios between the 2 people and try to get those. Now, let me talk more about MultiPass here. I like to have what I saw someone call a burner ride that is one with a return time as close to 9 a.m. as possible. And so this will be one that's really not in high demand. And so I picked Small World when I went and tested this out, where I was able to get a return time right at 9 a.m. Dumbo is another good one that will be easy to get an early return time for. The reason for doing that is as soon as you tap into that first ride, you can pick another tier 1 attraction. Those ones that are in the most demand, that are the hardest to get, you can get it right away. And that I found really helped me stay on top of getting more throughout the day. I could get an earlier one on that attraction. I could get earlier on the next one. And then I was able to do all of the tier 1 attractions with the Lightning Lane MultiPass, plus a lot of other attractions. So I think that should be part of your strategy, is getting one that you know you can get into right away. So if the person is making the Magic Kingdom reservations, they should be trying to get Tiana's as early as possible, a burner ride, and then whatever else from tier 2 that you are most interested in. And at Hollywood Studios, you just want to make sure and get Slinky Dog as early as you can, and then whatever 2 other attractions you're most interested in. At Animal Kingdom and Epcot, if you are even using MultiPass, which I am going to try not using it at Animal Kingdom, and I'm still on the fence about Epcot, it is not as important. The most in-demand one at Epcot is going to be Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, so try to get that next. And at Animal Kingdom, I don't even know. I wouldn't even use it. So that's my advice. Okay, last, the day of your visit. Should you be tag teaming this? Yes. Okay, only for your day at Magic Kingdom and at Epcot, where you should both be trying to get into the virtual queue at 7 a.m. So at Magic Kingdom, there's 2 attractions currently with a virtual queue. It's Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Tron. Now, if you followed my advice and you scored a Lightning Lane MultiPass selection for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I would use that, because the wait is going to be super short. The wait in the virtual queue can be 30 plus minutes. I would use the virtual queue for Tron at Magic Kingdom. And at Epcot, absolutely try to get into the virtual queue for Guardians of the Galaxy if you don't mind waiting 30 minutes. If you want to just pay and get the single pass, then absolutely do that. Oh, I meant to say about Lightning Lane single pass reservations. If you know there's a single pass that you want to buy, go ahead and buy it that first day when you're in there making your multi-pass selections. But for most attractions, single passes are available the day of. They're just going to be for later in the day. So it's not as important to make the single pass reservations right at 7 a.m. when your window opens, unless you know that you're park hopping and you want the single pass early in the day. Then absolutely make it as early as possible, because they dish them out as the day goes on. You can select it for later in the day, but you can't make it any earlier than what's available. So I meant to say that about single pass. Now, the day of. Yes, absolutely try and get in the virtual queue for Guardians of the Galaxy. Even if you buy a single pass, you could ride it twice. You could go through the virtual queue and you could use the single pass to ride it again if you want to. It's that good. I would ride it twice. I think you should both be trying to get your entire party into the virtual queue at the same time. Whoever's phone is faster will win. And the other person, if they aren't first getting it, it'll just say it's not available. And that means it's already been made. So I say this because the virtual queue does go really quickly, and you could potentially get it for much later in the day. If that's not convenient to your plans, you really need to be on it. And some people that want a really early return group, a boarding group for these attractions, will have a timer, like a countdown timer going on a different device. This is the strategy. They'll have like their iPad there with the world clock going, and then they can see when it's about to turn 7 a.m. and they can have their finger ready. And the second it turns 7, they can tap the button and make the reservation then. And that's how you get a really early boarding group if you want to. I think that's it. Oh, the last thing she wanted to know is, after redeeming a Lightning Lane multi-pass selection in the park, making another one. So I don't think it's as important that you're both trying to do this. It is not like there's tens of thousands of people on there trying to get into the virtual queue at the same time, there's way less demand. So I think just one person, even taking turns, like this is the way it works. You go, let's say you're going to get on Small World at 9 a.m. Everyone in your party taps in the first Mickey to like enter the queue. Then oftentimes there will be a second Mickey that everyone has to tap into again before you can get on the ride. And I've noticed cast members are now saying, oh, there's a second point, tap in point, and letting you know not to try and get on your phone and start finding your next Lightning Lane multipass, that to wait until after everyone has gone through the second tap in point and then have one person get on and get your next selection. I don't think it's important to have both people doing it, but I really hope this helped. It wasn't overwhelming as you navigate making reservations for Disney World. It's a lot of work ahead of time, but really then when you're in the park, it can be way more enjoyable. So thanks for listening. Hey, if you're still there and you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts? It will help more people find the show and spread the word about the Budget Mouse. Thanks again for listening.